Hey, everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 77 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. People usually when I Today, we get to talk to my good friend, Luigi Fioravanti. We get into a lot of different stuff, but I'll give you just a little bit of a background on Luigi if you don't know who he is. Luigi has fought in the UFC a ton of times. I really don't know off the top of my head. You would think I would have looked that up, but you know me and you don't like it. Because honestly, a lot of the intro stuff when it comes to podcasts they're kind of silly. Everybody sounds really cool on the intros. I think when you get a guy like Luigi and you have him talk for 30 minutes, you can kind of recognize, oh, this guy is really cool. It doesn't really matter his intro. And we dig very deeply into his UFC career, his MMA career, and what it was like transitioning from the UFC, the pinnacle of mixed martial arts, into a hobbyist in jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. He's been a black belt since leaving the UFC, or since leaving, stopping MMA. I believe. Oh man, I don't want to claim something off the top of my head on how long he has been a black belt, but he has been a black belt for a very long time and is a very legit black belt. Something else I will say about him is he is the type of guy that you look at and you say, man, this guy looks really mean. And as it so happens a lot in jiu-jitsu, those are some of the nicest people that you ever meet. Unless you belly down when he's trying to pass and you let him get you in front headlock or like referee's position. Then he is as mean as he looks. He's probably even meaner than he looks in that situation. So don't let him get you there if you ever hang out with Luigi. But without further ado, let's just jump right into the episode. All right, Luigi, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks.
I feel honored to be here.
Yeah, it's a big honor. A lot of people, it's a lot of people are dying to get on the show.
Yeah,
it's
blowing you up.
Yeah, it's just it's tough. I'm always having to tell people no, famous celebrities and whatnot, and
sure,
it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, for sure.
How are you feeling today after we had a hard training session Wednesday? Do you feel good?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I took the day off yesterday, just let my body heal. I'm not as as I guess I don't recover as fast as I used to. So yeah. I just got to take some breaks here and then, especially if I train like 3 or 4 days in a row, man. I gotta take a couple days off to recover.
How old are you now?
I just turned 40 on the 22nd of January.
Oh man, did I not know that? Did I not wish you a happy birthday?
No, I don't really. No, you're good. I don't really tell too many people about it, or I don't really. It's not really a thing. So
yeah, man. I guess my invitation to your birthday party must have gotten lost in the mail or something. I don't know what's up with that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference at 39, 40 recovery wise? When did you start noticing that difference in recovery?
Honestly, I started noticing a difference, I would say around 36, 37. Because sometimes like you could just come back the next day, you're sore a little bit, but like your tempo doesn't change. You can still kind of pick up the pace and if you're in shape, you know what I mean? Competition shape and stuff. But I would say right around that time, like you just start feeling like your joints start really hurting. I don't know. For me anyway, everybody's a little bit different. There's people that can, that doesn't really phase them at all. And then others that just, and a lot of it, probably had to do with my diet at the time. Probably didn't have the most, the best diet, I would say. And, I think that plays a part in it too,
And recently you did just make a big, maybe, I guess not recently as much anymore, maybe close to what, 9 months ago, something like
I would
that.
say about a year.
A year ago, you made a really big change. What change did you make in your diet?
The change I made was in just not really a diet, just everyday kind of like I guess lifestyle. I stopped I stopped eating meat for the most part, not because it's like a fad or hey, I just wanted to try it out, and my gal, she's vegan and she doesn't eat meat, and I always ate meat, ever since I was a kid growing up. Every now and again I'll have some steak, just because I like eating meat,
Yeah.
I just don't eat it every day like I used to and often. And there's been a noticeable difference, I think, with me. And like I said, everybody's a little bit different. You know what I mean? Some people, it doesn't, everybody's got different blood type. Everybody's got different genetics. So I just went more of a plant-based kind of thing. And it's helped me out a little bit. I lost like 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. I gained a lot of weight. I think, for one, and not to like be an excuse, because it's just, poor diet, not exercising as much and not training is definitely going to, put on those LBs, especially at the older you get, you know what I'm saying? So
what have you noticed feeling wise since having lost that 40 pounds? Have you noticed that you feel any better? You move any better?
Oh yeah. I just, definitely, my joints aren't as, they don't hurt as much, you know what I mean? Cause I'm not carrying all that extra weight. You definitely can move a lot better. Cardio's better, you're just not carrying that. It's like, 40 pounds of, it's quite a bit, so yeah, I just feel a lot better movement wise. You're a little bit more flexible, I still got a stomach, but it's not preventing me from like sitting up on, sit up guard or something, or I get up a little bit quicker, you know what I mean? And so that's always good.
What I always find interesting about weight loss, and I notice, and I actually noticed this in rolling with you, we train together probably once or twice a week. And I noticed that when people usually lose like a dramatic amount of weight, usually at first they don't feel as good because their game almost has to change, right?
Yeah.
And then it starts to shift. You start to get used to the weight. And like I've noticed in just the past couple of weeks, your passing has felt really good again. It's felt really transitional instead of just grab something and hold on and be tight. And at the lighter weight, that didn't work as well,
Right. Yeah. You just, you kind of, when you're big like that, and you're just maybe, I don't know, you're not as agile. So you kind of, and you kind of get into that big guy game, and you're holding on, and then you're waiting for the opportunity to pass, but waiting for maybe the other guy to make a mistake, catch your breath a little bit, make those micro adjustments.
Adjustments. Yeah. Man, that has gotten huge. I was actually going to say to one of my students last night, yeah, just a little micro adjustment. And I was like, crap, I can't say that anymore. Yeah. I can't, that's that is frowned upon. You can't, everyone knows who you're talking about if you say micro adjustments now.
Yeah. Maybe you want to explain what that
yeah. So I guess if somebody is in the jiu-jitsu community, maybe doesn't have Facebook, those would be probably the people that don't see this. But a guy, I believe his name was like Isaiah something. He posted on BJJ Fanatics a few days ago from recording this. And he posted on their Facebook group, which has 100,000 subscribers or something like that. And it was this really in-detailed match about him rolling with a purple belt. He's a white belt. And he made these micro adjustments and took his back and choked him. And he was really patting himself on the back. And of course, the jiu-jitsu community, being as forgiving as it is, just began roasting this guy.
Yeah, just trolled him.
It to the point where BJJ Fanatics group actually made a post saying, hey, we're not approving any more memes about micro adjustments or anything like that. And so what people did was they went to the other big jiu-jitsu groups and started posting those memes on those jiu-jitsu groups. it really got a lot of steam. It was it was an excellent thing for the jiu-jitsu community to bring us all together.
It was funny. Like that's all my, like, I was looking at Facebook. I'm like, what is going on? And I looked at the original post and I was like, oh, this guy, I can't believe he just did that.
Well, the original post, he edited it. And so like, I haven't seen since the first day that it was posted, I haven't seen anyone share the original post. The original post is like 5 or 6 paragraphs of him beating this. He grabbed my lapel
in detail.
Yeah, it was really good, man. And I was like, as soon as I started reading it and I get about like 3 sentences in and I was like, oh man, people are going to be roasting him. I just want to read the comments. And sure enough, yeah, people were eating this poor guy up.
And then they had like his coach on there or something. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? Like, who cares? This guy's just like some 2-stripe white belt, you know. I'm like, so what? You know what I mean? It's gonna happen. You're gonna get a guy that, you know, who knows, that guy could have been tired and who cares, you know what I mean? Or he could have been an older guy, or, you know, who knows, you know. It's just, but I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know, you know, good for him, you know. At the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's nothing really to brag about, you know what I mean? So
it's at most schools you do just in jiu-jitsu, you kind of do need a little bit of thick skin, because people they will eat you up. I had a new guy come into class on Monday. This is his second class ever at our gym. He had trained at a Gracie Baja gym. And so he has a Gracie Baja gi. And like, I don't have any rules on gi color or anything like that. But there's a guy at my gym that's a blue belt that we give a really hard time to. We call him Gracie Baja because he was a blue belt under Gracie Baja. And he wore the gis and the rash guards for a long time. And so we ate him up. Yeah. Well, new guy walks in. You know, you would think that logic would say, hey, we should wait a little bit before we start making fun of this guy. And my students just started dogging this poor guy day 2 of class. And he luckily was like, oh, sweet, this is a perfect fit for me. You know, everybody's joking and having fun. But they just started eating this poor guy up on the day. Like, hey, go sit over there with all the other Gracie Baja guys, you know, man, they were really giving him a hard time pretty quick, and I mean, I probably encourage that behavior at my gym, but still, you got to give a guy, you got to let him sign up first before you start making fun of him.
Yeah. It's like, hey, calm down. I gotta come to sign up, sign that contract first.
Yeah, he's not in, you know?
Yeah. I got a pretty funny story. I mean, it's funny to me, but so for anybody who doesn't know, I used to live in, you know, I'm from Florida, and I used to live down in Coconut Creek, and it was part of this big MMA team, American Top Team, and that's who I trained down, and a lot of those guys, you know, there's a lot of Brazilian guys down there that, you know, so it must have been like 2008, and Marcelo Garcia came in there, and you know, I was like a purple belt, and I was like, oh man, you know, like this guy's like famous, you know, this guy's 80cc guy, you know. And I mean, I actually ended up getting to train with him a little bit, and you know, he was showing me some of that, you know, some of the north south he does, and his butterfly sweep series and stuff. I mean, guy's amazing, you know, and he submitted me like a million times, of course, and you know, he did it to everybody. He was so good. And then, so I'd go to gi class sometimes and, you know, do some gi stuff. And, you know, Laborio was there. And for those who don't know, Ricardo Laborio is like the head guy of American Top Team. And I was like, hey, yeah, Marcelo Garcia showed me this little sweep or this submission or something. And he's like, oh yeah, Marcelo Garcia. He's like, so what are you, Marshmallow Garcia? Because I'm like, you know, like chubby little dude, and he's like, you know, trying to be like, yeah. So from then on, guys would call me Marshmallow Garcia.
Oh
like,
man!
And like the Brazilians were like, oh, you know, Marshmallow Garcia, just tooling me. You know, it was pretty funny. So
that was something. I want to say I was talking to it last time I had Chewy on the podcast. And he was talking about, you know, how common it is in any type of community like this, like in jiu-jitsu or something like that, to kind of roast each other. And they're talking about like the psychological, like the psyche behind it a lot of times has to do with, it shows like, hey, if I can be this mean to you and we are still friends, that shows that our friendship is more important than like our ego, you know? And so, you know, and that's really, you know, I mean, we go in on Monday and Wednesday and just start, we usually all make fun of Junior, but you know, we just start making fun of each other.
But, you know, ultimately it's not like we're being like, mean to each other. You know what I mean? There's nothing like they're not like, they're just kind of like playful jabs. And that's the thing. Like, it makes you feel like you're part of like a group or a circle or family team, gym atmosphere, you know, and by, I think a lot of people, you know, if they're like, you know, it's just I guess that playful banter makes you feel like a part or something, you know what I mean? That's how that's what I took from it, you know? So,
and I am sure, you know, from what I've heard, a lot of times in the military or like, you know, you were in the Marines, that is very common too.
Oh, it's even, it's, I mean, it gets a little personal there. You know, guys start fighting and stuff because we're all young and stupid, but like, you know, at the gym, it's, you know, nobody's really ever, it's never like a personal thing. It's just always like, you'll make fun of a guy because he's got some funny style or he does something, you know, he'll have like a weird sweep, but he like catches everybody with it. And you're like, how's he doing that? You know what I mean? And then, you know, just kind of go from there. So
yeah. And the tough thing about jiu-jitsu nicknames is once you get one, it's, you know, just our nickname in general, it just sticks, even if it's horrible, you know, even if you hate it. And so where did the Italian tank come from? Was that self-given? Did somebody give you that?
I had a boxing coach. So I used to go train with this guy down in he was in, what was it? Fort Pierce or Fort Stewart, Florida. It was down there in South Florida. And, you know, he was an Italian guy, of course. And, you know, his name, he had a nickname. His nickname was Polly Gloves. So he was like, yeah, you're like the Italian tank, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't be the Italian stallion, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know. So, you know, short, compact, and it just stuck. So I thought it was a cool name. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll run with it.
It's solid. It's not one of those nicknames that you like avoid going to the gym because of, you know?
Yeah.
Like when we call
like Marshmallow Garcia.
Yeah, Marshmallow Garcia. That's a hard one. Yeah, when we call one of my guys Gracie Baja, just as a derogatory thing. Like, hey, why is that derogatory? Well, it just is, and he knows it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what you joined the military right out of high school, correct?
Yeah.
What caused you to want to do that?
I don't know. You know, I always like, you know, you always looked at, I mean, the Marine Corps, everybody thinks that, you know, being a Marine, I guess at that time, I thought it was like a big deal, you know, and, I don't know. I always thought like it'd be something to do, going to the military, you know, and it's, at the time, I mean, it still is, I guess, a prestigious title. And I thought like, hey, I want to be part of something like that. You know, I want to try it out, give it a try, you know, something that, was, considered physically and mentally tough. So yeah, you know, and the thing is that I initially, when I was wanting to be a Marine, the recruiter told me that I couldn't do it because I was too heavy. Because I was always a fat kid, you know. I'm still, you know, chubby and stuff, but like, you know, I mean, I don't care. But you know, he's like, yeah, you're too heavy, man. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, dude. So I was determined to lose the weight so I can join the Marine Corps. So I did, you know. He's like, if you can lose the weight by this time, and I did, and then you know, I shipped out like right after summer, after I graduated from high school, and that I graduated in June, and in August I ended up shipping out to Paris Island and doing all that.
That's interesting though, because usually the recruiters are not known for telling you, oh, you're not going to be able to do this. They're known for like, oh yeah, dude, you're totally cut out for the Marines. You'll be.
Well, I mean, back then, you know, it wasn't, I don't know. This was in 1999, 98, you know, kind of. So back then, I mean, I'm sure there was like, you know, people were voluntarily, joining, I probably wasn't very hard to fill those quotas at the time. I'm assuming. I wouldn't know. I was never a recruiter, but I'm thinking back then, because this is before 9/11 and before Afghanistan, Iraq. So yeah, I'm sure they didn't have any problems filling those quotas. Maybe not. Maybe today it might be a little different. From what I hear, I think it's a little different. But yeah, I'm glad I did it. I think it was a enjoyable experience. Got to see the world and do some stuff that not many people get to do. So
for sure. So I actually was almost recruited once. I don't think I've ever told you this. I was going to Qdoba one day, and I'm like looking down at my phone. I'm probably 18 or 19, and I'm walking towards Qdoba. Right next to it is a recruiter. And dude pops his head out and points at me and goes, "Josh?" And I go, "Yeah." Like, come on. He's like, "Come on in, man." And I'm like, I'm so thrown off. I'm like walking towards the guy, and I like, why? And he's like, "Well, don't we have a meeting?" And I was like, "I think you're looking for a different Josh, man. I'm here for a double steak burrito." Like, and he's like, "But your name's Josh too?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you want to be a Marine?" I was like, "I don't think so, man. I don't, I just wanted to eat, And so, I ended up not going through with it, but he almost had me on the hook in that.
Well, yeah, these guys are like, they're salesmen, and they're super convincing. And I think the Marine Corps, other than like a lot of the other branches, are really good at selling, because they have this like appearance that they have to uphold. They all dress really sharp, and they're all like, and the guys that are recruiters, they're like, hey, they want them to look a certain way. You know what I mean? So like small waistline, like, big arms, wide. I mean, that's the kind of recruiter that I had. And I was like, yeah, I want to look like that guy. And he's like, hey, join the Marine Corps. You can look like me, kind of thing, and, they're all the stuff they have on the walls. It's like promotes like, leadership and like courage and all this, like, things that are like, yeah, I want to beat my chest kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's propaganda, but whatever. But it worked, it did. It worked. And I think it still works for their model, maybe not so much nowadays, maybe because I think everybody's little mindset's a little different.
People tend to be a little softer nowadays. Is that what you would?
I mean, I don't know about softer. I mean, I think certain regions of the country, in the U.S., I think, yeah, and I just think, the culture's changed a little bit. I mean, we can clearly see that in the media and kind of. I mean, I don't want to really, I don't know if you want to talk about those things, but it's just, you could just tell, and people are just, they have this like really this sense of entitlement, you know what I mean? Where they just don't really want to put the work in to earn or to get what they want in life. So they expect somebody to just hand it to them. Yeah. You can't do that in the military, you know what I mean? And I don't think in any branch you can really do that. So
I think that is a kind of a beautiful thing, if you really think about it, that you can't be handed those things. And it's like, it's a very frustrating system of, I guess let's just say life, but in America especially, that you get 18-year-old kids who are then told, okay, now you have to go to college. That's your, that is what you do. They go to college for 4 years. They take out a big amount of student loans. And then they are given a degree. And a lot of times the degree means nothing.
Right.
It has nothing to do with what they want to do. And they don't even know what they want to do. And then they are put into, the workforce, and they realize like, hey, I'm not making enough money to really get by, or I'm barely making money. Why did this happen to me? I don't understand. This is, this wasn't supposed to be this way. But they're not told that, at a young age, or even at 18, like, hey, this degree that you're going for, it means nothing, but it is going to cost you $100,000. And but don't worry, over 40 years, it's going to cost you more like 300 grand. And so it's just it's really, it's a really tough thing. I really see a lot of kids that do join the military and it being a really helpful thing for them. It really being it being different, being a challenge, and also it does set them up a lot better than being in debt substantially.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think you can get you get that college fund, you know what I mean, that you're paying into the first year. That's how it was for me, that GI Bill, and I was able to go to school on that, and I was able to pay, pay for my tuition. I mean, I didn't get a degree or anything, but I was I went to school after I got out, and I was actually going to go into law enforcement, and I ended up getting sidetracked by pursuing an MMA career. And so, but yeah, I think for a lot of people that join the military, I think that's the way to, like, and I look at it like, you earned that, you know what I mean? You earned that college fund, you know what I mean? Or you earned what you put into it, because, you're serving your country. And a lot of people might not agree with that, but, oh, well, that's just my thought,
Yeah. So the military is where you that's where you discovered martial arts, correct? That's where you started training?
Yeah. So, I don't know if, so this is another kind of funny story. So I was stationed out in the desert in California. It's 29 Palms is the name of the base. It's this small town in the middle of the desert, in Mojave Desert. And there was a guy out there by the name of Rafael Torre that had a gym. And I would go out there whenever he was there. And I would train with this guy. This was like back in 2000. And, he said he was a black belt and BJJ and stuff, and whatever. We didn't know. We just thought, like, oh, cool. There's a gym out here. There's a jiu-jitsu gym. Cause when I was in high school, I used to read these black belt magazines on the newsstand, and these grappling magazines. And I was so, like, that's where I got my my inspiration to pursue martial arts. I wanted to do jiu-jitsu, because I was like everybody, we'd watch those old UFCs where Royce Gracie was choking everybody out. I mean, it inspired everybody. It was, to do that. I wrestled in high school, so I drove around looking for a gym, and I couldn't find a jiu-jitsu gym where I lived in Florida. So I joined a judo school. And they were like, well, and they had, like, I guess some guy that taught shoot fighting. And I thought, like, well, that's maybe the next best thing, Well, they would never let me go to it because I didn't have enough judo experience. So whatever. And I ended up joining the military. So I found this guy in 29 Palms outside, and ended up going there, and I trained with him for a few months. And then he was always gone or something. Or he said he was a commentator for King of the Cage. And he actually fought, because King of the Cage is maybe, they used to put on this show at this casino, which is about an hour away from where I was stationed at. Kind of like, I was in the high desert. You'd have to drive a little bit down, and it'd be down in this other little area in California. And so he would go down there and commentate, and, probably party down there a lot. So he had a nephew that was also a Marine that was stationed there. And he was a Marine, and he would come out, and he would train this guy, Gerald Strebent. I don't know if the name rings a bell. He was like a 10th Planet guy under Eddie Bravo. Eventually ended up being a 10th Planet guy in Eddie Bravo. And so he was, training to do these King of the Cage fights. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And between training, I tried to get out there and train with these guys. And then it just, then his school closed because the guy was never there. But that guy years later ended up killing a guy, the Rafael Torre guy. It's actually, you can look it up. It was on the, I don't know if you ever heard of the Underground Forum on mixedmartialarts.com.
Yeah,
it was like a huge thing, and they were all talking about. So he got paid insurance money to kill, like, someone's ex-husband or something like that. He was, like, dating the old lady, this gal. And she's like, yeah. So he like rear naked choked him and killed him, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. And then, you know, he's in prison right now for it, but I guess he lied about everything he did. Like he said he was like some Army Special Forces guy, and he was a black belt in BJJ. Nobody like, you know, because he couldn't really tell you. Like, I think he said he got it from his dad or something, if I remember. I don't know, but you know, I don't think anything was legit about him. But I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that, you know, Gerald ended up training with like Chris Brennan and those guys out there in California, and ended up being, you know, he ended up fighting in the UFC and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool.
At what point did you kind of go full time with fighting? What was kind of your mindset with that?
Yeah. So after the military, I went to school. I was going to school to move back to Florida, and I was going to school in Orlando. And you know, I wanted to do jiu-jitsu. I wanted to train. I wanted to do MMA. You know, just for fun. Mm-hmm. You know, because I loved it so much, and I wanted to actually learn how to do it. So there was a Gracie Barra school there, and this is before Gracie Barra, but it was like before you had, you know, the white gis and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like, you know, wrestling mats, and then everybody wore whatever, like mm-hmm. Guys who wore white tops with blue pants, or, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? So like nobody cared. And they, you know, I'd go there and I would train. This was in 2003. And, you know, they were like, hey man, you want to do an MMA fight? You know, I did some grappling tournaments as a white belt and as a blue belt. And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, I give it a go. And, you know, I won a couple fights, you know, and it was up until I left Gracie Barra and I joined American Top Team in 2006. And they, you know, I met Laborio, and Laborio was like, hey, why don't you move down here and, you know, kind of pursue this, you know? I guess he saw something in me at the time. And that's what I did. I moved down to Coconut Creek, and then from there, I just tried to, you know, I was able to get a UFC contract and fight around the world, and then experience that career path. It was a lot of fun, you know.
And you fought a ton of different, you know, big names in the sport. And
yeah,
it's really cool to just kind of, you know, just in prep, I was just looking back over your record. It's really cool to see that and to see all that. Do you have any kind of favorite memories when it comes to your MMA career?
Yeah, I fought in, you know what? I think it was at the end of 2006. I fought Dave Monet, and it was it was a fight for the troops, and I ended up TKOing him in the first round, and it was such a crazy like feeling because of all the Marines in the seats, and they were all Marines, you know what I mean? It was like on a Marine base, and they're all just chanting, and it was pretty intense, man. It really was.
That's
like it was
cool.
pretty crazy. It was a pretty crazy feeling.
And he was a champion at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a middleweight champion a couple years before that, you know. So yeah, and the thing is, MMA is just a very unpredictable sport, you know. One day you're on your high horse, and the next thing everybody thinks you suck, you know what I mean? Because you lost once, or you lost, you know, a couple times. Even like, you know, even guys lose like, you know, 3 times in a row, and are just like, oh, he's a bum, he's done. It's like, dude, mm-hmm. That's not the case when you're fighting. You know, you're fighting these tough guys, you know, back to back, and injuries and stuff like that. You know, when you hear the fans say stuff like that, you just like, wow, you don't really understand what people put into this, you know. Same thing can be said for jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? Yes, where you see these guys that are like constantly competing, and you know, they're studs, and they just, you know, it might not be their night. They might end up losing by a submission or something like that, and then you know, you don't know what that guy's going through, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's got some physical ailments, or he's got something else on his mind, you know what I mean? Personal things, you know, that are affecting his performance, you know?
And sometimes when you're fighting like the top people in the world, they just beat you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
not even.
And it's intimidating too. You know what I mean? You step on the mat and you look, you know, and you're like, you know, and it could be intimidating, you know, and you go out there, you give it your go. And, you know, I still, you know, like, recently I started competing more in jiu-jitsu, and, you know, I was more of an MMA guy. So I had to change a lot of things, you know what I mean? Like the way you sit in the guard, it's a different type of grappling, you know, maybe not back in the 90s and early 2000s, but nowadays, like, you can't do the same thing you used to do in MMA and get away with it in like gi jiu-jitsu, you know. And I did gi jiu-jitsu before, but it was more geared towards MMA. And the thing is, like, certain positions, you know, you're not relying on your grips because those grips don't exist. It was just mostly just to, you know, to learn to get to that position and escape or to sweep, to get back to your feet, you know. While in jiu-jitsu, it's you're not worried about really getting to your feet. And you know, so, you know, I think, and that's one thing I could say training with you guys is, like, I had to change everything, you know what I mean? So I mean, I still have my game that I kind of stick with, you know, that especially when on the bottom, I try to half guard sweep and get up, you know what I mean, or get to my knees. And it, you know, and that's something that's always stuck with me since I was a blue belt. But I've changed some things about it. You know, I use the lapels, and, you know, I'll use the sleeve grips now. I use my grips a lot more than I did before. Yeah.
Have you noticed that transition has been hard?
It was at first, and I didn't like it. You know, I think it was easier, like, for no-gi, you know, because, you know, there's no grips. But at first it was because I'm like, you know, you know, and I knew some of the grips, you know what I mean, with passing and but I never really used them, you know. And to learn that, you know, I had to relearn it, you know. And then you know, and I think now it's a lot easier, you know, because you got to, you know, it's muscle memory, you know. You have to train your brain. You have to drill these things over and over again, these grips. But at first I didn't enjoy it, but I enjoy it immensely now. And I think it's because of the chess game that is jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? It's always evolving, and you can never learn everything. There's just so much to learn, and there's always new stuff coming out, you know. Or it's you learn something, like, you take something like that, let's say, like the half guard, and, you know, somebody that's been around for a while, they're like, why don't you just move your hips this way, or why don't you do it this way? And you're like, why didn't I think of that? And then you implement that into your game, and it takes it another step. You know, that's why I just love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, micro adjustments. I love it. Yeah. So, and it keeps me it kind of keeps me normal now, you know. It's my outlet, you know, my stress relief. My outlet is jiu-jitsu now. So
it is. Yeah, it's interesting to go from a UFC fighter to then starting to do jiu-jitsu as a hobby, you know. And it's something, and I'm sure it's got to be a hard transition for a lot of people. What point did you decide that you were gonna, like, start to do jiu-jitsu and just focus on that? Obviously you're a black belt ever since I've known you. But when did you kind of decide, like, I want to focus on competing? And
when you guys were all kicking my ass every day at the gym, I was like, God damn it, I'm tired of this. Yeah, I think it was, you know, I saw, you know, I trained with Nick. Nick is phenomenal competitor, man. I tell you what, you know, you as well, and Kyle, you know, and you know, all the guys at Watson's and Head Nod and stuff. And I'd see these guys. I think it was about, you know, 2016. I think I met you in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And I was going over to Kyle's, and I was when he was at the Central West End on Laclede there, and I'd go into his place, and you know, you guys were getting ready for competitions, and I was still doing my MMA thing, and I was just like, man, I want to do these. I want to compete as a black belt in jiu-jitsu with the gi on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it. So I always had this this mentality that I always feel that like you need to compete to it's just better for overall for yourself, but also like I guess not to prove anything. I don't have anything to prove, but then again, it's like, you know what? I'm a black belt. I want to be able to compete as a black belt and do well. I mean, you're not going to win every match. Of course not. All these guys are studs. You know what I mean? Even guys that, maybe, they don't compete all the time. But I mean, if you're a legit black belt, you're going to be tough. So. I wanted to compete. I wanted to test myself, and that's when I saw you guys. We went to Chicago, the IBJJF in Chicago, and I went up there, and I had one match. I ended up winning, and ended up knee barring the guy.
I remember.
And like the first round, like 40, I was so happy because I was like, wow, I never thought I could do that, But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I got kind of sidetracked with. This career that now that I have, a career change and getting into law enforcement, and I wasn't able to, put as much time in at the time. But now that I've kind of like I'm like, maybe I'm gonna focus more on things outside my life, like my hobbies, like jiu-jitsu and things that I love, and I want to compete again, and it just makes me feel better,
Do you ever think about coaching again?
Oh yeah. It's just the time. I don't have the time to do it, because whenever I have time to go to the gym, I want it for myself, and it sounds selfish. But I work, after work, I have enough time. I'll go to the gym in the evening or in the mornings if I'm on afternoon shifts, and I want to focus on, something new that I learned, you know what I mean? Focus on my jiu-jitsu and bettering myself and training, with you guys and we'll push each other, we have some hard goes and we're always trying. And the thing is, everybody's like, we're always trying to like, we're trying to better ourselves against other competition, but we're also like, we're trying to like, well, Josh caught me in this ankle lock, and I hate it when he gets me in this ankle lock. So I'm going to do everything I can to not get caught in this ankle lock. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to learn how to like get out of this or get out of this sweep or spider guard that Nick always gets everybody with, you know what I mean? Cause he's so good at it, and it's just, it's like that chess game where you're just constantly trying to beat that guy in the gym. And it's not like a personal thing, or it's not like it's just we're all competitive in our own ways. You know what I mean? It's not like we're not going to back down from each other, even though we're all friends and we're all training partners, but we still want to like get better. We're not always going to be able to, it's not always going to be a good day for us in the gym. You know what I mean? So it's way healthier than that. Cause you look at it like, we were actually last night, me and Justin Huff were drilling, trying to beat Nick's spider guard pant leg sweep. Oh, dude, I hate it.
Yeah, it does it to everybody. And it's just, he has been hitting it on me like every time we roll. And I've been trying to, so we're like working, beating it. But the cool thing is, like, let's say I do figure out a way to beat it. I start to beat this position. Now Nick has to figure out something new to beat what I'm showing him. And so we both progress in our game because he keeps doing the same thing to me.
Yeah.
I think that's, I think it's just super healthy to be able to do that, to be able to push your training partners.
Yeah. And you evolve as a competitor, as a jiu-jitsu player, and then you have to constantly learn. So like, I never used to play spider guard. And I'll play spider guard, or I always stuck to like half guard, maybe some De La Riva stuff. But then once you guys figure it out, I got to change it up, and then I have to evolve, and then I have to learn something else. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about, training, and that's what brings me back. That's what keeps bringing me back there. You know what I mean? Like some people can't take that that blow to their ego. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, man, I tell guys at work, I tell you, man, you got to do this. It's just, it's like, it's so humbling, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, you're constantly wanting to improve. You're constantly wanting to better yourself. That's what I love about it.
What is your opinion on law enforcement guys doing jiu-jitsu?
I think they need it. I think they need it badly, super badly. And you know, the thing is that you have to kind of understand, you know, people, you know, right now cops have a bad stigma, you know. I mean, they kind of always kind of had a cloud over them, but I think it's just because like you have to look at it from their perspective. You're put in a position where you have a little bit, you have the rule of law, but then also you that little bit of power where you think that I have the badge, I have the gun, I have the uniform, I have the car, so therefore you have to do what I say, you know. And that you can't have that mentality, you know what I mean? You have to enforce the law because that's what your job is. But you got to understand too, like you know, people don't like to be told what to do. You know, people don't. Yeah. They're like, well, no, I didn't do that. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Or yeah, I did do that. It's my right. I can do whatever I want. You know, people have that. Remember we were talking about that sense of entitlement. You know, where they just. And it's worse nowadays, I think, than it was, you know, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. But cops, and back to what I was saying about the police department, they don't have this. They don't know, like, their humility. So, like, you know, you have all these things, to boost your ego. So a lot of these guys that have never been in a fight, or if they've been in a fight, it's you know, a schoolyard fight or or a bar fight or something like, you know, that's not a real fighting for your life kind of situation. You know, and jiu-jitsu, it's, you know, when we're at the gym, you're not fighting for your life either, but at the same time, like, you got this guy that's on top of you, and you're the perfect example. Is that when you're on top, you're unforgiving. Your knee cut and the pressure, and you know, and if you've never been in that position, I mean, people that train with you know, like, Josh is unforgiving when he's on top. You know, so like that, and that knee is just driving into you, and you know, I don't know. I have my breakfast is coming up. I can't breathe. I'm getting claustrophobic. I'm freaking out here, you know, and guys that are in jiu-jitsu know what that feeling's like. Or when you know, you got a guy on top of you that's just bigger. It's fucking Eric Hubner. Yeah. He's a nightmare. You don't want that guy on top of you. The guy's, you know, 270 something pounds of man meat, you know, strong as hell and fast as could be. Good wrestler, athletic, you know what I mean? And he's just, you know, and you know, so like, you know, I love Eric, but I don't ever want to, you know, I make a mistake. I'm like, oh, I'm going to play half guard, or I'm going to try some kind of lasso. No, it doesn't work. It crushes you. You're just trying to survive. And that's the thing. Like, they don't know what that mentality is like. A lot of guys, the guys that train jiu-jitsu know what it's like, but the guys that don't, they've never been put in that position where they're, you know, that feeling of somebody on top of you or somebody pummeling you, you know, and you don't know what to do. You get tunnel vision, or you just clam up, you know. And I think that with the proper training and jiu-jitsu training, they can move past that. I think it'll help them have confidence in dealing with situations, you know, but also like know how to like handle it and not resort to other means of I guess other means of enforcement when it comes to like you know, a baton or pepper spray or taser, you know. The other and I don't know if you have time for a story. I got another story. I would love the story. So the other night
I saw a post on Facebook, so I was actually hoping that this story would come up.
So there's this guy. He's a known vagrant thief in the Central West End neighborhood. And we're not going to say his name or anything, but he's a known guy, and you know, he's a homeless guy, and he's a drug addict. You know, he's got a problem with drugs, and so what he does, he goes around and he checks car doors and steals stuff, or breaks into houses and steals stuff, so he can take it to the drug dealer and buy drugs with it. You know, he's homeless. You know, so anyways, me and my partner, we're driving around in this area, Central West End area. If you live in St. Louis, you know what I'm talking about. And we see him walking. And I'm like, that's so-and-so. And he's like, no, it's not him. Because he had, you know, he was all covered up. And I was like, dude, that's so-and-so. I know his silhouette. I've seen him so many times. And we've always like, get out of here. You know, you're not supposed to be over here. You know, because like they have like, he's got a violation of protection order from the neighborhood, so he's not supposed to be in the area. So anyways, we're like, all right, let's go around the block. And sure enough, he's like dead sprinting down the street. And I'm just like, hey, you know, so-and-so. And we get out of the car, and he kind of stopped. And he's like, what do you guys want? And he's, you know, he's kind of like acting, and he's usually pretty calm. So I'm assuming, you know, I assumed he was under the influence, you know, which he was. Clearly he was under, due to some other facts that, you know, I'm not going to talk about. But so, you know, we're like, hey, what are you doing over here, man? He's like, oh, I'm jogging. I'm like, you're jogging through this neighborhood? Like, you don't even live over here, you know? He's like, yeah, I live over so-and-so. I was like, man, it's a couple miles away, you know?
Training for a marathon.
So so he was like sprinted, and he was just acting. He was very angry, and he was acting like very erratic. So, you know, we were like, okay, well, let's detain this guy. Maybe he did something. I don't know. You know, it was reasonable suspicion. You know, detaining him, it doesn't mean he's not under arrest or anything like that. You know, so anyways, I go right away. What I do is I do a 2-on-1, you know, Russian 2-on-1. And I think that's a very, very good grip, because you can use that, you know, if you have to throw, trip, takedown, you can drag from there and go to the back. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do from a Russian 2-on-1. So my buddy grabs him, and I grab his other arm, and I'm like, God, this guy's strong as hell. Like, why is he so strong? Like, I mean, he was like, you know, he was super strong. I'm like, oh man, he's probably under some kind of, you know, controlled substance, you know. So I go 2-on-1, and so I, you know, did this takedown where, you know, I got him down on the ground, and it was able to get him down on his stomach and get his arm behind him. And I look over at the guy, my partner, and I'm like, he was kind of struggling a little bit, and he ended up injuring himself too. But I think that if he would have trained jiu-jitsu, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, you know, like kind of laughing a little bit. Because this isn't something that you know, I don't want to have to do that to the guy, you know, and put him down on the ground, and you know, and fight with him. He had some warrants and stuff, but like, you know, I make sure that I'm not going to harm him, and I didn't get injured in the process either, because I had control and I knew what to do, and I didn't. My adrenaline wasn't going, you know, crazy. I wasn't like breathing heavy. I was calm, cool, and collected, because I knew what I was doing. My body automatically resorted to what I know best, and that's, you know, applying some type of joint manipulation or control, positional control that I learned in jiu-jitsu. And I think a lot of these guys need that. So, man,
I see it so often. Guys come in off of, you know, like they're big, strong, athletic police officers, and they're like, I want to learn jiu-jitsu, and they start rolling with my 140-pound pothead blue belts and just start getting wrecked. And you can see it on their face. They're like,
They don't like it.
Yeah, this shouldn't you. And a lot of times, the ones that stay tend to stay forever. After that second class, but the ones that don't, they're like, oh, I don't. This just isn't for me.
Right.
But man, those are the guys that need it because, imagine if you didn't have the ability to go 2-on-1 on somebody and just de-escalate a situation so easily with just some connection. It's just that would save so many injuries, so many lives from both police officers and people that are being arrested.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, back to what I was saying about that humility, being humble and that confidence, like, I don't need to escalate the situation. I knew I was trying to de-escalate it by, I didn't yell at the guy. I was talking him down. I was like, hey man, listen, man, just relax, just comply with us and we'll work with you. You know what I mean? And that's another thing is I think having those communication skills, like communicating with people, is a big one. But also, like, because I mean, I'm a little older, than a lot of the guys I work with. Some of the guys are in their 20s, so they're they're a little high strung, and they're super. They're confident, but like like I said, they've never been in the situation, and they've never been on the other end, of that either. So they don't know what that feels like, and I mean, honestly, like there's some cops that I don't really like, I don't like the way they talk to people. And I'm just like, man, if you did that to me and I was that guy, I would have knocked you out. And no, you couldn't have stopped me either.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do.
A lot of these guys can't fight.
And that's crazy to me is the aggressive confidence that some police officers have. And like, dude, this wouldn't be good. I actually had, I was at the airport like last year, and it was a super small airport in Destin, Florida. And I guess it's Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Yeah. And this cop like really aggressively comes up to me because I guess there was some brown guy that was stealing bags and like tried to grab me by the arm and
You're the only brown guy in the area.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I'm the only brown guy in Florida. And he goes, is this him? And the first I like gave the lady a second to respond and be like, oh no, it's not. But I was like, man, I could have just reacted and just, that would have been horrible. I would have just destroyed you, dude. Yeah. You're like, you're round, you don't have, you don't have an athletic bone in your body. What do you think would happen? Right. And, I mean, even if I didn't know jiu-jitsu, even if I was just a young athletic, 25-year-old, like still, where does that confidence come from of, like, oh, I can just walk around and be tough.
Grab people. Yeah.
Like, dude, that's not smart.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that going up and just grabbing somebody, I mean, even my reaction would be like, dude, get your damn hands off me. And I can see why people get upset. Why, and like, what makes you think you could just grab me? You can't do that. And that's, I mean, if like she was like, yeah, that's the guy, or somebody identifies you as the guy, just because you fit the description of a suspect doesn't mean like that's the guy. You know what I mean? I mean, how many times they give out a description of what the guy, and I've been there, I've done it, but not aggressively. In my case, where I was able to talk to a guy and be like, hey, listen, man, there's somebody that fits your description, just work with me here, and I was able actually to put handcuffs on the guy just to detain him. Detain him. I'm like, you're not under arrest. I'm just detaining you, okay? If everything, and I mean, it's some people aren't going to go that easily, so you just have to be able to, you're going to have to be able to react differently, and in case you have to get a little bit more hands-on. But usually, you just got to know how to like approach people and talk to people. And I think that's a big thing that's lacking in a lot of places. And, unfortunately, I mean, when you're dealing with some violent people, they just, that they just don't want to comply at all. And I mean, it goes a little bit further where if somebody's in fear for their life, that's their reason for using deadly force. Well, if there's a weapon involved, I could see that, because even if, jiu-jitsu and, some sort of martial art, if there's a knife or a gun, I mean, unless you have the upper hand and you can get it away from them,
for sure.
That's deadly, man. You gotta think about, what if he gets that? What's he gonna do to you with that knife? You know what I mean? He's gonna put holes in you. He's gonna slash. He's gonna cut you up. He's gonna kill you. A lot of people, they suffer from mental illness. So for them, it's just, I think that's another thing. They're trying to address that more often nowadays.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, okay, well, it's justified. He's got a weapon. I have to use deadly force,
It's definitely
it's unfortunate,
job,
but that's the job. Yeah.
And I would say that just so many of these guys are just they're undertrained. I mean, I look at it. I guess I would look at it like this. I get to see how physically undertrained a lot of the guys are.
Just by looking at him, you're like, oh man, that guy's a cop. I mean, you're like, that guy's a slob. I mean, and not everybody's like that. Not everybody's like that at all. But there's some guys that probably could use some definitely need some exercise. And they need that training. I mean, the defensive tactics. Well, right now with the COVID restrictions, they're not allowing anybody to do anything. I mean, luckily, you got to go outside the academy. But like, even then, I mean, even when the restrictions weren't around, like we would go to the gym and they'd have us do these like wrist lock takedowns, like the old school, like jiu-jitsu, you know what I'm talking about, where you grab it and you turn, you grab the back of the palm and turn it, or like grab the arm. And I'm like for me, like, okay, if I grabbed a hold of you, it'd be different. But a lot of these people don't have that type of tensile grip, that grip strength, you know what I mean? Or they don't have that, so like if they grab somebody like that, I'm just going to pull my hand away. And that is exactly what happens. And they have to resort to other non-lethal means of restraint, which is, they'll go to their taser next, instead of knowing how to grab the person, where to grab them, and what to do next from there. Because they show a couple of these like wrist lock takedowns, wrist lock to get the hand behind to handcuff them. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for somebody that has no that they're not strong enough to move another human being and put their arm. And like I said, most of these guys are under the influence of something. So what are you going to do?
Well, and in truth, it doesn't work. You're trying to do Aikido wrist locks on people because that's what they were taught. And it just does not, against somebody who is actually resisting, right? If you were being compliant and then you got put in a wrist lock, you would be like, ow, stop. Right. And you would go to your knees or something. But if you are already in fight mode, something like that, something like a pressure point, it is not going to be effective.
Yeah,
you need control. And it's just, they don't have that. I really, really love, one of my students is doing the, he might have actually be done with it by now, but he's doing the certification, the police officer certification that the Gracies have, Huron and Henner have. And nice. It is so good. It's just it's so simple, but it is, it's very in depth. It's stuff that would work. It's all about, and it's not like, I think the problem is for a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that try to teach arrest tactics, they're like, oh yeah, pull guard on the guy or something like that. And you don't want to do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
And they really do a good job of tying together, hey, what do you have? Do you have a partner with you, and being able to do those things and communicate with your partner and things like that. It's just really a good course.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing too is a liability issue for departments, and that they don't want officers getting hurt. And that just goes to that's kind of how our culture is nowadays. Like, well, we don't want to contact because they're going to get hurt, you know, and everybody's just scared to get hurt, and guys are going to file for workers' comp because they got hurt while they're doing, you know.
Yeah, the training.
So they try to show,
like
the least amount of physical force, you know, so nobody's getting hurt, nobody's twisting an arm, nobody's hurting their shoulders, and because you're going to get hurt, you know what I mean? That's the thing. Like in any type of grappling system, you're going to get hurt, you know. My buddy got hurt just doing that takedown. The guy fell on his hand and broke his hand.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like people get hurt because their bodies aren't conditioned, you know. Oh, they're not ready for those type of movements. Yeah, man, I wish they would incorporate. I know some places they do. Some departments do, you know. I know a guy down in Florida. He's a Gracie Barra black belt. He has this program where he invites police officers to come, and he has a class, and he shows them, like, you know, jiu-jitsu techniques as well as like handcuffing techniques and stuff, and how to restrain people and stuff without you getting hurt, you know. And I think it's awesome. I think they need it. They need it badly. You know, all over the U.S. for sure. So,
yeah, man, no doubt. All right, so just to change to a different note, this is always what we finish with on the podcast. Sure. I always have the same question to finish. So, you know, the show is the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. We're gonna be at a seminar that you're putting on, and maybe I'm a blue belt, and I raise my hand when we're doing question and answer, and I say, Luigi, I suck at jiu-jitsu. How do I suck less at jiu-jitsu?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody really sucks at jiu-jitsu. I just think it's the way you progress, like you're learning. Like, how many times a week do you go and train jiu-jitsu? Are you just going to class? Are you staying afterwards? Or are you drilling? Are you doing the extra work to put in to get better at jiu-jitsu? And with jiu-jitsu, it's a and I mean, I'm talking to you like I wouldn't be talking to a blue belt. I would just be like, oh, just train more, you know what I mean?
Train more.
That would be my answer. And I think everybody's kind of like the same. It's like a universal, just train more, man. And that's kind of what you have to do, is you have to put in the time. And I think with any combat sport, you know, kickboxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, you just have to put the time in to get better. And you have to do it over and over and over and over again. And some days you don't want to. You don't want to drill. There's a lot of times that we come to the gym and we just roll. But I think, you know, going over the moves, putting in the extra time is what's going to make you better. And it could take you, you know, there's guys, it takes them 3 years and they're already at the top. And there's guys, it takes them 10 years, you know. Some guys never reach it. You know, some guys will never, you know, I mean, some guys they'll always kind of be, you know, I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm never, you know, I might never beat the best guy in the room, but, you know, I could still beat this guy over here or that guy over there, but like, I'm never going to be the best guy. And as long as you're okay with that, you know, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with not failure, but losing, you know what I mean? To lose to somebody he's just better than you, you know. I've been doing, you know, the mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu for a long time, but there's guys that just, you know, they're just better than me. They're, you know, physically or they have a move that I just don't know how to defend. I mean, a perfect example. I'll give you an example, right? Trevor, he's, you know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu a lot longer than Trevor, but Trevor always X passes me. He always passes me, like it's like, but he's so good at it, you know, and he's very good at it. And me and him have some really tough goes in the gym. And I love going with him, you know what I mean? Because he pushes me that much harder to be able to, you know, to get out of that, or, you know, so I go after him harder than I go after, you know, let's say you or Sanders or, you know, Kyle or somebody else, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so it's just, everybody progresses differently, you know, and you know, you just got to be okay with just going out there and taking your time and learning. Yeah.
I try to just beat down Trevor. You know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, it's like a big brother thing, because he was, you know, he's a white belt when I had just gotten my purple belt. And so he was a blue belt when I was still a purple belt. But, you know, I just, you know, he's still got a big brother him a little bit. And, and then it's this funny thing, because he's like, man, I never passed you. I've never done this. Like, yeah, you never will. Never. Don't even, just quit trying, because I'm bringing it on you.
He's put it on me a couple times. You know, you get guys like Matt. You know, he's Matt. You know, he's another police officer, and you know, the guy's in phenomenal shape. You know, he works out every day, all day. You know, and he just puts the time in, and he comes in, and you know, and he just you're like, he's a blue belt. But I mean, he might be a little bit more than just a regular blue belt. But you know, he's got a background, and that helps him as well. You know, his athletic background. But you know, there's going to be guys that they're just better than you at certain things, and you just have to be able to accept it and use jiu-jitsu to nullify it and see what moves will work at it. Work. You know, like I said, you have to be okay with losing. As much as you hate it, you got to be okay with losing, because you're not going to always win. And, you know, it's just going to make you better, I think. It's going to make you better.
I like it. I think that is probably one of the most common answers, is just train. You know, it's just train. Just got to show up, you know, and that's and that's a struggle for people. You know, that's the well, I train more than this guy does, or and he still beats me, but it's just not about that. It's just like self-progression. You just got to keep going and keep taking your beating. Yeah, for sure. All right, Luigi, thank you for being on the show, man. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. You know, I appreciate you, your pops, all my training partners, you know, everybody at Head Nod, you know, Justin, Brian, all those guys, you know, they're all, you got a great group of guys over there, man. You know, everybody at Watson's that helps me, everybody at Revive, you know, Junior, Nick, all those guys over there. Love those guys. It's a really great community we have here, you know. And I wish a lot more people would be involved in it within the community. you know, like be more accepting and stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
But anyways, February 27th, Carbondale, Illinois. I'm going to be competing at the Fuji Pro out there. There's going to be a big Fuji tournament, and you know, afterwards we're going to have some super fights. So there's going to be some really good black belts there and competing, and I hope to put on a show for everybody. So
I will be there.
Listening can be there. Yeah, I know you will be there for sure.
Yeah, man. That'll be exciting. I'm excited. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Thanks again, dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being on, man.
Yeah, man.
And that is the episode. If you guys, just like we talked about in the end of the episode, if you guys want to watch Luigi compete live, it'll be 10 days from when this podcast is released, or maybe 9 days from when this podcast is released. I'm not good at the quick math, but you guys can do that. It's at nitrotix.com.net. something. I'll make sure to link that in the description just so you guys can find it. And you guys get to see him. As of right now, I don't know if they ever announced him as the main event, but all the cards that I've seen, he looks to be the main event of the card. So that's really exciting. And he will put on a show. He's a very good competitor. He's very tough. And I really am excited to get to be there in person. I haven't been able to see him compete the last few times. And so I'm really excited to get to be there in person. On a different note, if you guys don't yet, be sure to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I suppose you can follow me on both. But what I am doing right now is I am doing an experiment to see if it is possible for me to post a technique or mindset video every single day. I'm going to do it for 60 days, and I'm going to see if it is possible, or if it's just too much for me to do. I think it should be possible. I've been able to be consistent on it so far and be able to do videos in batches. And that is also something that you guys can help me with. If you guys have questions, mindset questions, technique questions, any question for jiu-jitsu, I get a lot of how do you finish certain submissions. I've been getting a lot of those. I'm surprised with the lack of escape questions that I have got. I don't know if there's just so many people that cover that online, or you guys just get out of everything. But I think that you guys would really enjoy kind of my teaching style, my teaching method. And I think it could be really helpful for you guys. So you can follow me on Instagram at the Josh McKinney, or on my Facebook page is like a likable page, athlete page, maybe let's call it an athlete page. And that is Josh McKinney BJJ. And so you guys can check those out and let me know how you like them, and give me feedback. If you guys hate it, if you think I should just stop at day 7 because my videos suck, then I guess you can tell me that. I probably won't do it, but you can at least mention that, I suppose. I don't know. I kind of went off the rails there. But regardless, if you guys have any questions, be sure to ask. And if you like the podcast, if you're enjoying it, share it with somebody. It is always nice when somebody gives you a podcast recommendation, because there are a million podcasts out there. And so it's hard to know what is good and what isn't. And so if you're enjoying it, share it with a buddy, a friend, someone you hate, everyone you know, I don't know, whatever. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that it helps you suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu.